Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hidden Cove radio show. My special guest today is the beautiful Charis Melina Brown. She's returning to the show, and I'm so happy to have her. So welcome back, Charis. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm great, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you, so I'm really excited.
Thank you, and I'm excited to connect with you as well. And our topic and our discussion tonight will be complimenting women and why that seems to be so hard for women to do. And I'm definitely want to dive into this because this is some good stuff. So, so tell me about your experiences with complimenting women and dealing with this issue within yourself. And this is a sensitive topic, and some people don't feel comfortable talking about it either.
Yeah, it is a really sensitive topic because what we've been taught culturally is really different than what our hearts and even our minds would tell us. The thing with competition between women, it's one of those things that's very subtly taught. I don't think any mothers tell their teenage daughters that every woman's a threat and you have to be the best in the room in order to feel safe. It's something that is taught very subtly. It's something that's taught in media and taught in the way that the romantic ideals work through our culture about competition and about not being able to appreciate the awesomeness in someone else, because if you can openly appreciate theirs, then you're somehow saying that you don't value yourself, which is not at all true. It's just things that are sent through our cultural kind of underground belief systems. And one of the things that I've found is that the more that I can kind of attack this issue head on with me and my friends, the better it is. So an example is we have this rule, and I just had a little tea party this week for some of my friends, and we ended up adopting this at the end of the tea party. And it was that whenever we see each other from now on, we have to compliment each other, a real compliment. You have to find something, and it needs to be unexpected. It can't be just something that, you fake or you feel obligated to do. And when you receive the compliment, because then it's even harder to receive it, you can't say thank you. You have to say damn right.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, Elizabeth, you have great hair. And Elizabeth has to say, damn right. And it's, and a lot of what I found in my personal experience is the more confident someone gets, it's going to bring up the insecurities of everyone else, because also we're taught in the same culture of, not my will, but thy will be done, which is a really beautiful thing to do unless it's twisted kind of the wrong way, and I think often it is that confidence is seen as something that is undesirable. It's seen as something that is judgment worthy and that makes someone kind of not as good of a person. Humility is it's important to not put yourself above others, of course, because we're all divine beings. But also humility, which is putting someone else over you, also isn't being a divine being. It's giving up your life force to something else. And so what I've found is the more confident the one gets, even if you see the beauty in everyone, which I feel like I do. I mean, I really do. I love being around people who inspire me, and I love having beautiful friends. I love going with a pack of beautiful women into a place and just rocking the foundations of the place. But when there are people who are not ready to do that, when there are people who have insecurities and traumas that they haven't identified and aren't ready to hit head on, then what can often happen is intense projection. And what I've experienced is whenever I trigger someone and it doesn't end up well and it does end up with a projection, what will usually happen is they'll feel something about me that makes them uncomfortable. They don't know what it is, and they can't put their finger on it because it's not actually anything. It's just that their insecurities are getting brought up because of the energy of the interaction. And so since they can't put their finger on it, usually they come up with really interesting reasons why I'm a bad person, like really unique, fascinating ones that aren't verifiable. Like they aren't things that really make sense that you can point to. They're just ways that they attach feelings to that, reasons to that feeling of discomfort that comes. And so that's the negative side of it, right? And then on the positive side of it, what I've noticed is that when you can be around other women, and not only because women are fine with telling each other that they're nice, women are fine with telling each other even that they're smart or capable more, but telling each other that we're beautiful, telling each other that we're sexy, that's a hard thing. I had a friend that I spent a lot of time with back this summer, and it was a really interesting dynamic because she in her past had relationships with both men and women before. So it was definitely a different kind of vibe when we would talk about these kinds of things because she had been in romantic situations with women. And so we made each other a deal. And what happened with her is that she would often trigger her friends because she has this amazing healing presence that also brings in a lot of mother issues with people around her who she's hanging out with or healing. So she's had multiple friends feel like the mother issue is actually a romantic connection. And then they would come on to her, and then afterward it would be really awkward. So we made each other the promise that we would never be romantically involved or sexually involved or anything. And once we made each other that promise, we also said that we had to tell each other when we noticed each other were beautiful, and especially when we noticed each other were sexy. Because telling someone they're sexy with absolutely no energy of, I want to have sex with you, is incredibly healing. Especially woman to woman, because, that's just a completely taboo thing. It's saying, wow, you look amazing. And it's so healing because it's safe and it's really fun once you start playing with it, and then you get to see where your own triggers are. And so the idea is to have friends and to manifest them. And some people might be like, well, I don't have these friends, but they're everywhere. Just start asking the universe for them and they will show up. And start manifesting them who you can do this kind of work with. And what you see is everything in life changes. Once women can feel like we're not all for ourselves, each one for ourselves, and we can realize we're part of a greater sisterhood of consciousness on this planet, then things get a lot easier to handle because you know that you're not alone.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, because I feel like we, as women, we all go through the same thing, emotionally, mentally, and physically. So if you see a woman that pretty much has it together and you can acknowledge that, it's like, why not let her know, hey, guess what? You look amazing. I can feel your energy. I can see you from here. What's wrong with saying that? And to me, I feel like there has to be an insecurity within you that you can't pay a compliment to another woman. What is wrong with that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're taught that if we pay a compliment to something, that's automatically saying that we somehow think that we're less. So I think the real thing to get a hold of with this issue is the idea that when you fountain out good feelings to everyone around you, when you turn into this generator of beautiful feelings, it actually makes you stronger, and it actually makes you more powerful, and it doesn't give up your energy to somebody else. Not when you do it willingly. When you do it willingly, it creates more magic everywhere.
I think some of us also don't know how to take compliments, as you mentioned that earlier. It's kind of like, really? You think I'm attractive? You think I look great today? After a woman has put in so much time in the morning to look her best and feel her best, it's like someone can give you a compliment and you're like, really? But it's like, wait a minute, that's what you prepared. You know what I mean? That's what you prepared yourself to look like in the morning. What's your feedback on that?
It's part of that code. It's part of that 'tis more noble to think that you're crap code than 'tis noble to own your power and create amazing things. And so one thing that is a great exercise to do, and I teach this in some of the classes that I teach for divine feminine energy, and also just for things like manifestation and creativity, is to make a list of compliments people have given you over the years, especially ones, because we all have a few compliments that we always get over and over, and to make a list of them and to go through each one on a daily basis or as often as you can and really let yourself feel that it's true about you.
Yeah.
And when somebody
that's a good exercise, though.
Maybe that's true. Like to act as if it's true, because the thing is, we don't believe it. That's why it's hard to accept it, because we don't believe it, because we've been taught that it's more responsible for us to always be trying to get better and better. And then as soon as we surmount one obstacle, we just set another one up right there. We don't even take time to enjoy it often. And so we just say, okay, well, now I'm good enough there, but I need to not be good enough here so I can remain a good person. Because if I stop striving to be good enough, then maybe I'll turn into a jerk, is the fear. And it's what being confident is being not a good person.
That's so true, though. And I actually have heard people say that in conversation as far as the upbringing, and they have experienced that. That's so true. And you know what? I definitely want to piggyback on what you said previously as far as that intimacy. Sometimes people can take it the wrong way. So if you're paying that compliment, and they can take they can take it in a way where it's like a sexual type of thing, and it's like, actually, no, I'm just letting you know what I see and what I'm observing about you. That's true too, and that has actually happened to me as well. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, but then again, we come back to we're only responsible for our own feelings and our own energy. And so if someone wants to take something out of context and be offended or scared by it, that's their prerogative. All we can do is make sure that we're sending out the cleanest, best energy that we can send.
Yeah, that is true. And like you said, taking responsibility for, I do agree with that. I do. And I'm sure that probably every woman has had their own personal experience of dealing with the situation, but I know that it bothers me deeply when, I've witnessed women see another woman and they're like, well, anything they say out their mouth is going to be negative. But she looks absolutely phenomenal.
They feel threatened.
Because
they feel threatened. Yeah. And it's because they that if we've been taught. So this is nothing that people generate on their own. This is cultural programming. And it's that if we see a woman and she is just badass, walking on the street, gorgeous, empowered, a boss, right? And it will, because we are clan beings. Women, they say that when men have an issue, right, a problem, they retreat and deal with it themselves. And when women have a problem, the first thing they do is pick up the phone and call in reinforcements for advice or for processing or whatever. And so if we see something that makes us resonate in a resonance that doesn't feel good to us because we have a block there, or we have a trauma there, or an insecurity there. Say someone sees a woman walking down the street with her briefcase and her, Louboutin shoes on, right? And the person had a father who told them a woman needs to be subservient and can't, be a boss. And this woman who's observing the power woman has always felt like they want to be that. Then when they see that power woman, they're going to feel really triggered. They're going to feel like she's insulting them somehow because she's going against what they have been taught is acceptable behavior in their paradigm. So it all comes back to what's acceptable behavior. Yeah. And then you also have people who what I've noticed a lot of times is it's about physical, kind of sexual energy. I noticed that when I first moved to the desert, it was really hot, and I didn't want to wear very many clothes because it was really hot. I just went with it because I could. So I would, go to the grocery store in something that bared a significant amount of skin, not because I was trying to have any effect on the people around me, just because I was hot and I wanted to be comfortable in the temperature. And I could feel, because, being intuitive, and I could feel the scans. And what I really noticed was that when I felt nervous and when I started empathing other people's triggers and thinking, when they would think things like, who does she think she is to wear something like that? When I would kind of withdraw in and when I would kind of do the turtle thing with my energy and kind of tuck inside and be scared of offending someone because no one wants to it doesn't feel good to have that energy directed toward you, it would get worse. It would get absolutely worse. And so what I learned to do is own it energetically without any type of physical action and just say, there's no rule. That's what we're allowed to wear. There's no rule because I'm not breaking any laws, and I have no intention of whatever it is that is making the person uncomfortable. I have no intention of doing that. And so I'm going to still stand here not being a jerk as long as I'm here. And eventually maybe you crack through the people's boundaries because then they see, wait a second, you can do that? You're allowed to do whatever the thing is that's triggering them. Just like the woman watching the CEO walk down the sidewalk. Hopefully the idea is, wait, we're allowed to do that? Rather than, who does she think she is? Are you defending the block, the cultural injury, the trauma, or are you trying to heal it in yourself? because it's a collective thing. It's just made up of all of our emotions combined. There's no outside force keeping the rule books written.
Right. I'm with you. I'm following you. You're tapping on so many different levels, and it's like I want to ask a question, but it's like I don't want to disturb you because I'm like, wait a minute, interrupt you because I'm like, wait a minute. I'm getting these thoughts all over, and I just feel like, I don't know, I just feel like one thing about it is that I'm going back off of what you said as far as when you're in the desert and it's hot and things of that nature. First of all, if someone wants to see you, why do they even care? I think sometimes people put a little bit too much energy into certain things. It doesn't matter. Who cares? And I think that when you put too much time into worrying about what someone else is wearing or how they're speaking or how they're acting or whatever the case may be, so what? You know what I mean? Like, who cares? Let that person be free within themselves. And I also feel like if you are confident within yourself, you're not really going to care what the other person is doing anyway. So it doesn't matter.
It feels great when the people around you are empowered. The idea is to be like, yeah, when you see a sister who's rocking whatever it is she's here to rock, and we're all different, so it's going to be different for each of us. The idea is just more empowered when you see someone else being empowered, not less empowered, because you're like, yeah, there's someone who's doing it. More of us are doing it. Yeah. I think it's that resonance thing. I think it's that resonance thing. I think it's that if we see someone vibrating a certain spot, especially if it's a strong, powerful vibration, then we're going to try to match that vibration just naturally. You can't even help it. It's like plucking a string of a violin and a string of another violin across the room goes off too. It's that sympathetic resonance. And so since you naturally just try to match it, especially women, it's just a natural thing, then if there's anything out of whack that doesn't match with yours, especially if it's linked to a trauma, then you're going to be offended. And that offense is just protecting your paradigm. And so if for us talking about this, because it'll happen sooner or later that we get triggered, and for the people listening to this, the next time you have a trigger like that where someone just offends you by their very being or makes you feel uncomfortable, if you flip the mirror and you're like, ooh, where is something in me that I need to heal? And if I heal it, I'll get a gift. Because that's what it really means.
Yeah. Wow. I'm speechless right now. I am so speechless. I swear to you, I'm like, wow. I just, I'm baffled because I don't know. I just feel like, I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and I just feel like I've never had a problem with giving a woman a compliment about something, because I know I'm a woman, and I know what it takes to want to feel your best and be your best and show up in the world, basically being your best, that you can be. And so I don't know. I just feel like it's a touchy subject. I know that you're the perfect person to have this discussion with, obviously, but I don't know why it's such a challenge, and I just really wish that we would work on this. And I know that growing up for some of us, like you said before, the competition, we were all taught differently. And I think that as young girls, we're not taught to love each other and support one another. Yeah. And I think that's where the problem starts.
Right, because like I said, these things are not they're not on the surface. They're things that are buried. Yeah. And if we want to talk about where it comes from, we can go back to, Mary Magdalene, right? We can go back. We can go back to Lilith. Yeah. It was all the witch burnings, the Inquisition. It has been a thing for a very long time to not want women to be empowered in our culture. And we could get really esoteric about it and say that it had to happen so that we can then come back together and make something that was greater than there was before. I believe all that's true. But when it comes to case-by-case basis, it's always dealing with it within ourselves. And sometimes you have to trust that the universe is giving you what you need. Sometimes you might trigger someone, and it might be the end of a friendship. It might be the natural death of the friendship. And that's got to be okay. And sometimes you might trigger someone. I've had both of these things happen. And afterward, and you realize the trigger is what's going on, because even if you realize a trigger as it's happening, it doesn't make it go away. It just makes you kind of have a map for it. So I've had situations where my friends and I trigger each other, and we're in the trigger. We're like, ooh, this hurts, but okay. And then afterward, we can come back and discuss it and realize that, oh, this is this thing that happened with one of my parents when I was 8. It wasn't you. You know what I mean? And then that can make it much more beautiful, and it can make the relationship even better, the friendship between women. So what we have to come back and do is be honest with ourselves and know that when we feel that critical vibe, when we feel that appraising, looking someone up and down, and feeling that competitive kind of energy, we just have to ask, do we want to be harboring that energy in us? In my experience, it's not good for you. It makes you sick. It makes you age. You know, it's not. I don't do it for completely selfish reasons. Yeah, I want to feel good. So that means that I want to be around a bunch of people who are enjoying their lives too. So from my perspective, the more amazing the effect. And if I have an effect on people, I want it to be a good one because I want to hang out with people who are enjoying their life. It's still totally selfish.
Yeah,
I'll admit that. But in the end, I think
and all of that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's okay that it's selfish because it's still a good result and nobody's getting hurt by it because the idea is to live in a world where everybody has their power and we can just be free and create what we want to create and party, however, whatever that means for us.
Oh, my God. How about How about And I think that when you can, when you can stand in your own power, but honestly, when you're able to do that and then come together, do you know how many things you can accomplish? And I think that's what I'm super passionate about because I just feel like we need to learn how to come together. And if we're able to do that, oh, my God, the sky is the limit. But if we continue to, just compete and, just all the negative energy, it's just kind of like, where are we going to go with that? We're not going to really accomplish much. We're just going to be by ourselves or be miserable or be in a corner and be upset and depressed. What is the point? It's for what?
Right, I agree. And it's like any prejudice of any kind or any unconscious issue. As soon as someone realizes they're doing it, then you can get out of it. But you don't realize you're doing it because it's subconscious. So as soon as a woman can think about it and be like, oh, my gosh, what if that, talking about people that I like to do with my friends is actually making my life less enjoyable? What if I were to try to go a week and every time I see somebody who triggers me, every time I see somebody who kind of offends me with their being, what if I were to try to find something about them that I admire and that I think is cool? Just in my own head.
Yeah.
What would that do to my own, even neurochemicals, Because it doesn't threaten you. It's the feeling of being threatened. It's the feeling of saying, well, if I admit that this person is doing something cool, then that means that I'm somehow insufficient. But as soon as you get rid of that, and why would that make sense? We all have different skills. The world would not even be interesting if we all had exactly the same things that we rocked. So if we could appreciate that in each other, I mean, doesn't everybody want to be somebody who, if someone comes to you and has an issue or needs something, you can be like, I'll make a call. And in order to be able to make a call, you have to know people who are in charge of their shit, And in order to know people who are in charge of their stuff, you have to be okay with the people around you being empowered. Well, that's another thing too with women. I think that a lot of us have been taught that our worth lies in helping others. So then, if there's someone around who's empowered without our help, without them, or making them okay, then we are afraid we don't have worth.
Yeah.
And for men too.
Just a comment on that. Because I want to go back just a slight when you said about admiring something in someone else. And I think that also it's fair to say that, there isn't one woman out here that there's not a quality that we don't admire something in them. We admire a lot of different people, but having the confidence to inform that person that we admire something about them, we don't go that far. And why is that?
I think that it's fear of having our compliment rejected, or it's fear of making someone think that we're not confident, because again, it's that paradigm of if I tell you that I think what you're doing is cool, then that means that I think that my own thing is not, which is not true. That's something that comes up out of my culture.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we can say, I think your thing is cool and I think my thing is cool, you know, then it's a different paradigm you're running.
Yeah, and actually be okay with that in yourself. It's just a compliment. So the bottom line is fear, basically.
Right. Yeah, it generally is with just about everything. Yeah, I think so.
Wow. That is like so powerful wow, fear can definitely take over everything. That is just very interesting. Wow. Well, it's always a pleasure speaking to you, Charis. I can talk about this topic for hours. So, I mean, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And, you know, for the listeners who did not get an opportunity to listen to our discussion previously of vulnerability and letting go of the past, I hope that your listeners definitely reach out and listen to that. But for those of you who did not listen, I definitely want you, Charis, to share where or what is your hidden cove for the listeners who did not.
Well, lately, I was thinking about this before the interview because I didn't know what I was going to say. And so I think that my hidden cove is my aligned energy body. I notice that whenever I feel like I need some nurturing or I feel insecure or afraid or tired or whatever it is, if I just take a few minutes and calm my breathing, deepen my breathing, straighten my spine so my spinal cord and my brain have room to float the way they're supposed to, not compressed. And also for the more esoteric peeps, the Kundalini energy can flow. And then if I imagine just that light bubble around me, around my body, and make it strong and make it impervious because anything negative that hits it is just neutralized and transmuted into light, you know, then I come right back to a place of trusting the universe and knowing that good things want to happen. So just knowing that it's safe to release into it because you're going to be caught by something that loves you.
I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. Okay. Can you name one thing about yourself that you love?
I love my, let me find a good one. I love the way it feels when I love nature. I love that I can plug in that way. It feels good.
And are you an earth sign?
I am. I'm a Taurus. Of course.
Ah, makes sense. Okay. I get it. I totally get it. Okay. Well, thank you again for being on the show. I love talking to you, and I'm sure that I'm going to ask you to join me for another discussion soon. But thank you so much again for coming on the show.
I've loved our conversation as always. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for this work that you do.
Yes, love, and have a beautiful day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.